Okay, we got two fractions here, but I want to get everything to terms of sine and cosine like we always do. So I'm going to get 1 plus and change tangent to sine x over cosine x. And that's all over sine x. And then over here I got a minus sign, and I've got 1 plus cosine x over sine x is what tangent is. And then over down here I got a cosine. So I have a complex fraction here, and I have a complex fraction here. So what I would recommend you do is put everything into fractions by putting ones over them, or putting them over 1, because anything divided by 1 is itself. So I'm going to get rid of the complex fraction right here. So I'm going to do the LCD of this part over here. So we want to find the denominators, the parts in the bottom that are the same. Those ones are the same, so the LCD of that part is going to be a 1. And then you have a cosine that's not like anything, so it's cosine. So the LCD of that first fraction is cosine x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply every single part of this fraction by cosine x. Because this is going to get rid of that complex fraction. It's going to get rid of the extra fractions. And since I'm multiplying the top by cosine and the bottom by cosine, that's 1. So that doesn't change the value. So cosine x times 1 is cosine x. And these two cosines reduce. So that leaves me cosine plus sine x here. And then on the bottom here, I got cosine x times sine x. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So again, I got a 1 and a 1 in common. So the LCD is going to equal 1. And then I got this sine x not in common, so I multiply those. So that's going to give me sine x. So I'm going to take and multiply everything over here by sine x over 1. So I'm going to multiply this by sine x over 1, and the bottom by sine x over 1, which is 1. And when you distribute it, you're going to take this one times sine x over 1. Same thing I did over here. So I got a minus sign here. And then sine times 1 is sine x. Sine times this one, this sine x and this sine x reduce out, so that's plus cosine x. And then here on the bottom, I've got cosine times sine over 1. It's just cosine times sine. So now what I have is common denominators. Now this minus sign means I have to take and distribute negative to both these. So this is, minus means add the opposite. So what that means is you can change this to a plus, and you can make this negative 1. You can move a negative 1 up here to distribute this, because you got to take that negative to both of those, which is pretty hard to do. So I now have cosine x plus sine x, and then I distribute that negative, and I get minus sine x minus cosine x. And that's over the common denominator. These are the same, so you can put it over the common denominator. And then I'm going to add like terms. Well, this positive sign and that negative sign, those cancel out. That's 0. This positive cosine and that negative cosine cancel out, so that's 0. So that's 0 over cosine x sine x. And 0 divided by anything is 0. So that's your problem. Have a good day.